We left the Civil Affairs Bureau without a second thought, neither of us bringing up marriage again. He went on to start a business with his first love, while I remained at home, dedicating myself to my design drafts. 6 years later, he had risen to become the CEO of a listed company, happily reunited with his first love. Meanwhile, I was still at home, immersed in my designs. When we crossed paths again, he was arm in arm with his first love, looking down at me in my simple attire with a mocking smile. "It's been so long," he said. "Why are you still so ordinary?" Little did he know, my husband was the wealthiest man in the world. At our university professor's 70th birthday celebration, I flew back from abroad specifically to honor him. It was there, 6 years after our rebirth, that I encountered my ex-husband James, now a successful CEO. Initially, the gathering was filled with eager conversations around the professor, who was pleased to see his former students seemingly more mature. However, the atmosphere shifted when James arrived with Emma, his first love. The crowd quickly gravitated towards them, eager to curry favor. I noticed the professor's disappointment and quietly took his hand, offering a comforting smile. "James, you've really made it," someone remarked. "You're a big boss now, so different from the rest of us." "Yes, we'll need your help, General Manager James," another added. "Just say the word, and we'll do our best." James smiled modestly, continuing to walk with Emma. The crowd, realizing they hadn't praised Emma enough, quickly turned their attention to her. "Emma, you look as stunning as ever, like an 18-year-old beauty. You and James make such a perfect couple," they gushed. Emma feigned shyness but clearly enjoyed the attention. The group continued to flatter them, completely overlooking the professor, the true guest of honor. As the banquet was about to begin, the noise continued. I finally stepped in, reminding everyone, it's already noon. Today is Professor Nathaniel's birthday. Shouldn't we be celebrating him instead of arguing here? James noticed me and frowned. "Why are you here?" he asked. "It's my mentor's birthday. Why wouldn't I be here?" I replied. Our past was no secret. Our failed attempt at marriage was well known among our peers. The room buzzed with curiosity as they watched us. "Olivia is Nathaniel's favorite student," someone commented. "I wonder where she's working now." The contrast between us was stark. James in his designer suit, Emma in her elegant dress, and me in my simple t-shirt and jeans. Yet, the origin of my outfit was far more significant than they realized. James, eager to assert his new life, announced, "Emma and I are engaged. We invite everyone to our wedding next May 20th. The room erupted in congratulations, bypassing any awkwardness between James and me. Emma, seizing the moment, approached me. "Olivia, which company do you work for as a designer? I'd love for you to design my wedding dress. I trust your skills, being Nathaniel's student." All eyes turned to me. I forced a smile and shook my head. "I'm still at home, working on design drafts. Your wedding dress is too grand for me. You should find someone else." Emma feigned surprise. "Oh, Olivia, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you've been at home all these years without a job. You and James are friends. I thought you'd be doing well. If you have any needs, just let us know." I waved my hand and returned to my original seat. The others were being sarcastic, thinking I was ungrateful. I helped the professor stand up and gave them a few cold glances. "If you don't want to be here, then leave," I said. Today's protagonist is Nathaniel. If you want to curry favor with someone, you should choose the right time. Everyone's cheerful expressions suddenly turned cold, and they looked at me resentfully. James then looked at me, still smiling. "Since Olivia said so, then it's indeed my fault. All right, I'll cover the professor's bill at noon today, and I'll invite everyone to our newly purchased villa in the evening." The cold atmosphere was immediately ignited, and everyone was eager to see the grand villa. James stared straight at me, full of complacency. "What do you think of this plan, Monitor Olivia?" he asked. I didn't want to waste any more words with them and simply nodded. "Then Monitor Olivia, see you tonight," James said. I was about to decline, but the two of them just skipped over me and prepared to sit down. James walked next to me and gave me a few sarcastic glances. "Monitor Olivia, you're still dressed so plainly. If you had listened to me back then, you wouldn't be staying at home relying on your parents now. You're just stubborn. Now, one of us is in the sky, and the other is in the dirt." "One in the sky, one in the dirt?" I asked. Sort of, James replied. After all, the height I'm at now, he really can't reach. In our previous life, James and I were childhood sweethearts. Naturally, the adults thought we should be together. He used to work as a small clerk in a company and found it boring. I stayed at home all day drawing design drafts, but no one was interested. His first love, whom he had been thinking about, started a business after getting together with someone else. She soon became the richest person in the capital and lived a wealthy life. He hated me intensely at that time, thinking that I had held him back. He believed he could have been with the first love, the school beauty, and lived a good life. But because of our parents and me, he missed the opportunity. At Emma's wedding with someone else, I still remember the way James clenched his fists, with a look of resentment on his face. I thought he was just resentful in his heart. But later, I found that he started not coming home at night. There were also many hickeys on his neck. Things like lipstick and foundation that appeared in the car from time to time eventually became the last straw that broke us. Olivia, what else do you want to make trouble about? James said. You just stay at home all day waiting for me to support you. Why? I must have been crazy to choose you back then. If I had been with Emma, I would be the richest person in the capital now. I watched as his once gentle face turned ferocious. For the first time, I felt chilled and helpless. I did stay at home all day. But in fact, I was the one who covered most of the household expenses. It's true that my drafts didn't sell very well. However, my family was originally well off, and the money was given by my parents. How did it become that he was supporting me and I was useless? He clearly saw that others were living better than him and thought that I was the one hindering him from getting rich. How did it become my fault? In the end, I still compromised and chose to divorce him. On the way to divorce, our car was hit by a large truck and overturned, falling straight into the river under the bridge. When I opened my eyes again, the two of us were reborn to the day when we were sitting on the stools in the Civil Affairs Bureau, ready to get married. This time, we got up directly and left the Civil Affairs Bureau. Without too many words, he dialed Emma's phone. And I went back home and continued to draw my design drafts while staying at home. The dividends after rebirth also came towards me. I grasped the fashion trends of design in recent years and adjusted my style in a timely manner. Now I'm the exclusive designer for luxury jewelry. I suddenly became a top figure in the design industry. Most of the money I earned, I donated back to the school. I wanted more people to have enough capital to continue on the path of design. They didn't know all of this. They still thought I was that unknown person just idling away my life. I originally came here to celebrate the professor's birthday, to thank him for his cultivation of us, but it turned into a stage for James and Emma. Naturally, I had to get justice for the professor. Don't they like to show off their wealth? Then let's see who is richer. After having lunch at noon and seeing the professor off, everyone was going to take a taxi to James' house together. As soon as we walked out, we saw a Rolls-Royce parked outside. The driver was respectfully waiting for the two to get on the car. Everyone immediately let out screams. I never imagined I would see a Rolls-Royce in my lifetime. I found it amusing to see their shocked expressions. After all, my husband owns dozens of supercars in his garage. He has every model of Rolls-Royce. I've grown tired of seeing them. I hailed a taxi and was about to leave, but Emma stopped me. Sister Olivia, why are you taking a taxi? There's still room in our car. Come on. I shook my head and quickly declined. No need. I'm allergic to luxury cars. James looked at me mockingly. Emma, people like her, who rely on their parents, naturally resent us. You're too kind. She doesn't deserve to ride in such a fine car. Amid everyone's ridicule, I got into the taxi and received a call from my husband. Baby, aren't you celebrating your teacher's birthday? Why haven't you come back yet? Hearing his concerned voice, I couldn't help but smile. There's a classmate gathering tonight. Do you want to join me? It's at 666XX Mansion. After hanging up, I remained smiling until the driver reminded me we had arrived. Looking at the grand house before me, I fell into deep thought. Before I could ponder long, I heard a car honk. Turning around, I saw James and Emma walking over, hand in hand. Sister Olivia, you've never seen such a large villa, have you? Come on, I'll show you around. When the others arrived, they looked at me with displeasure. Having embarrassed them earlier, they now sought to mock me to vent their frustration. Olivia actually came. I thought she'd take a taxi and run back home. Ha ha ha, don't say that about our monitor Olivia. She just wants to see the big villa. Hearing their comments, the two on the sofa smiled smugly. Okay, stop teasing Sister Olivia. James, take the guys around, and I'll show the girls my cloakroom. We split into two groups. I followed Emma slowly. The layout of the house and the cloakroom closely resembled the one I lived in abroad. But I couldn't recall my husband owning this villa. Emma took out a pink diamond to show off. This pink diamond is the only one in the world. Take a look today. My God, it's so big and beautiful. Emma is so lucky. Her husband bought such a rare gem for her. I'm so envious. I stared at the pink diamond, lost in thought. Its design was identical to the one my husband gave me a few days ago, but mine was safely stored abroad. Could hers really be genuine? Noticing my gaze, Emma approached. Sister Olivia, you seem fascinated. Do you like it? You're a designer. Why don't you give me your opinion on this pink diamond? Her close friends giggled behind their hands. Emma, don't tease her. She's probably never seen one before. Yes, Emma. Put it away quickly. Someone might steal it without us noticing. They almost called me out by name. I calmly replied, a thief wouldn't be interested in a fake. They burst into laughter. Oh really? Fake? What makes you say that? It's not like you've seen a real one. She showed it to you out of kindness, and here you are, talking nonsense. Others invited us to the villa for dinner, and you're enjoying their hospitality while acting so pretentious. James overheard the commotion and glared at me angrily. Olivia, don't be ungrateful. Look at yourself. I thought you just lived off your parents, but I didn't expect you to be so jealous. Emma took James' hand and shook her head pitifully. It's okay, James. I don't think Sister Olivia meant it. She probably just hasn't seen such luxury before, so she's talking nonsense. Everyone, let's not linger here. Let's explore other areas. Feeling the hostility, I picked up my phone and walked to the garden. I no longer wanted to be around them, fearing I'd be further disrespected. I just wanted to finish the meal quickly and go home to rest. As soon as I turned on my phone, I saw a message from my husband. Baby, are you sure you're at that villa? It was meant to be a surprise for you. How did your classmate's new purchase suddenly become the center of attention? I had just returned from a work trip and was on my way from the airport when I received a message. As I looked around at the people surrounding me, their sycophantic behavior struck me as amusing. I couldn't help but anticipate the moment when the truth would come to light. Walking in from the garden, I immediately felt the weight of everyone's intense gazes. Their faces were filled with disdain, and it was clear they were judging me. Olivia, you were once the class monitor. How could you stoop to such underhanded behavior now? Yeah, look at you sneaking around alone. Where did you hide it? Someone taunted. It's true. People can't be judged by appearances. Just hand it over and apologize, another voice chimed in. Maybe we can still be classmates after this. James, after a long pause, finally spoke up. Forget it. That bag isn't worth much. I'll just buy Emma a few new ones later. Let's not ruin the mood over this. Everyone's here to have fun, and we shouldn't let this spoil it. Besides, for some people, this might be the only designer bag they'll ever own. Bag? Some people? Spoil the mood? I thought to myself. It was obvious they were indirectly targeting me. Emma's friends, however, weren't ready to let it go. They began mocking me subtly. That bag is Emma's favorite. She said it was the first one James bought for her. It has sentimental value, one of them said. Yeah, that bag might not mean much to you, but for some people, it's a big deal. If we let this slide, who knows what they might try next? It could be a disaster for society, another added. If she causes trouble in the future, it'll reflect badly on our school, someone else chimed in. I couldn't take it anymore. If you have something to say, just say it directly. Stop beating around the bush. What exactly are you trying to accuse me of? They were taken aback by my directness but quickly recovered. We suspect you. Everyone was in the living room, and you were the only one sneaking around in the garden. Who knows if you went upstairs and stole something? Yeah, you used to be an exemplary student. What happened? Hand it over, or we'll call the police, another threatened. My expression darkened. So, Inviting me to this villa was just a setup. Emma quickly intervened, trying to calm her friends. Okay, stop talking. James said he'll buy me more bags later. Losing one isn't a big deal. I trust Olivia. But I wasn't having it. I slammed my phone on the table. You're accusing me of stealing? Where's your proof? A villa this big must have surveillance. Let's check it. When we reached the study, we found that the surveillance footage had gone black during the critical period. Emma's friends immediately seized the opportunity to blame me. No wonder you wanted to check the surveillance. You must have tampered with it. How convenient. One of them sneered. This is the first time I've seen a thief shouting, "Catch the thief." It's embarrassing for our school, another added. I could see the smug look on Emma's face. She thought she had outsmarted me this time. But little did they know, this villa belonged to my husband and me. Those bags were mine, and she'd have to return them. As the tension escalated, my phone rang. It was my husband. He told me to stay put and that he was on his way. Emma's friends couldn't resist another jab. Oh, calling your husband? What? Have you never seen a villa before? Did you call him just to show off the place? Their laughter was grating. Ha ha ha, that's how poor people are. They want to see everything, even if they can never afford it. Their words infuriated me. They weren't exactly wealthy themselves. Most of them were ordinary workers. Who were they to look down on others? All they had learned over the years was how to belittle people. They had slandered me, and now they were insulting my husband. I wouldn't let them get away with it. They'll regret it soon. I was about to head out to pick up my husband when someone grabbed my wrist. Where do you think you're going? I think you want your husband to come pick you up so you can run away. It wasn't until they said it that I realized what was happening. She's really scheming. With all that experience, does she do this kind of thing often? Hand over the bag now. Don't even think about running. I shook off their grip and pushed the person aside. As a result, they bumped into the antique vase on the cabinet. With a loud crash, the vase shattered into pieces. I looked at it with a pang of regret. What a beautiful vase. Everyone started arguing loudly when they saw what had happened. Especially James. He suddenly flew into a rage. Olivia, are you out of your mind? Do you know how much this vase is worth? Can you even afford to pay for it? When everyone saw James' anger, they also started blaming me. Are you insane? Not only did you steal something, but you also broke the vase. I've seen this vase before. It's worth hundreds of millions. Even if you sold yourself, you couldn't cover the cost. I think she regrets it now. James is the CEO of a company now, while she's still living off her parents. She's just trying to get his attention. I almost burst out laughing. Get James' attention? Does he even deserve it? Emma quickly walked over, tears in her eyes as she looked at me. Sister Olivia, I considered you a friend. Why are you still hung up on James? I felt sorry for you and helped you time and time again. But look at you now. You're even harassing James. I was so stupid to think I could help you. James supported Emma and looked at me with disgust. Olivia, Emma and I have been together for 6 years and are about to get married. We're happy now. Please stop bothering us. What you're doing only disgusts us. Haven't you noticed that all our classmates hate you now? Emma's friends also started berating me rudely. With your pathetic appearance, you still think you can steal a man from Emma? Yeah, are you so delusional that you've lost your mind? Does her husband even know she's like this? I've never seen someone so disgusting, always wanting what they can't have. Just as I was about to retort, I felt a firm embrace. You know what? What's wrong with my wife? Why have you all gone quiet? Weren't you so loud just a moment ago? Everyone quickly turned and saw the man behind me. He had broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and was wearing an expensive suit. A secretary and bodyguards followed closely behind him. My husband, William, is usually low-key and rarely makes public appearances, so no one recognized him. They still looked at him with disdain. TSK, how many actors did you hire for this little show? Poor as you are, you still want to show off here. Today's gathering has really opened my eyes. Some people will pretend to be anything. My husband gave them a cold look and then turned to his secretary. I remember this is my house. How is it suddenly filled with so many strangers? At first, everyone was stunned, but soon they burst into laughter. Come on, is her husband crazy too? He looks decent, but turns out he's just as delusional. They're both nuts. How could this house possibly be theirs? James, who had spotted my husband from a distance, was completely stunned. My husband ignored him and continued to look at me. Baby, are you hurt? Why didn't you tell me when they were bullying you? We have so many bodyguards at home. They're not just for show. You could have called, and they would have handled these people. Emma's friend, seeing that my husband was ignoring them, became even more aggressive. Hey, are you deaf? Can't you hear me talking to you? What a perfect match, a bitch with a deaf guy. Stop pretending. How much are you paying these actors? Are you guys going to starve after today? They burst into laughter, but my husband was still checking to see if I was hurt. After making sure I was fine, he waved his hand. A group of bodyguards stepped forward, ready to escort them out. Seeing this, James quickly approached, forcing a smile and bowing obsequiously. General Manager William, why didn't you inform us of your arrival? I could have arranged a proper welcome for you. Emma stared at James in disbelief. She tried to pull him up, but he wouldn't budge. James, what are you talking about? What General Manager William? James wiped the sweat from his forehead and reluctantly explained. This is William, General Manager William, the richest man in the world. He's planning to return to the country soon to start a new business. Hearing this, everyone's eyes immediately turned obsequious. General Manager William, it's truly better to see once than to hear 100 times. Yes, General Manager William is usually so low-key. How could ordinary people like us know what he looks like? General Manager William, we didn't recognize your eminence earlier. Please don't take it to heart. Emma was also stunned. She couldn't believe that the world's richest man from the rumors was actually my husband. I gently stroked my husband's hair and ruffled it a bit. I'm fine. But what's going on with this house? Why did I hear James say this is his newly purchased villa? My husband then fixed his gaze on James. James was so scared that his eyes kept darting around. What, General Manager James? Aren't you going to give me an explanation? James was so frightened by my husband's cold tone that he fell to his knees. General Manager William, I was wrong. I truly didn't know you were coming today. This villa has just been renovated, and I thought of inviting some people over to air out the formaldehyde smell. I snorted coldly. Does he even believe this excuse himself? My husband sat on the chair, holding me, and stared straight at James. James quickly began slapping himself in the face. He slapped himself more than a dozen times. His face immediately swelled up. The group of people fell completely silent. No one dared to say a word, afraid of ending up like James. Emma also clenched her fists tightly and looked at me with resentment. What, do you have a problem? My husband's attention was drawn by my words. He glanced at Emma and then looked away. The bodyguards quickly stepped forward and grabbed her. Emma was forced to kneel beside James. She glared at James with hatred. Liar. Didn't you say this house was yours? Why are you saying it's not yours now? How many things have you lied to me about? James had no time to pay attention to her. He crawled over to my husband, trembling. General Manager William, do you think this is enough? My husband sneered. What? My new home has been defiled by you, and you think a few slaps will make it all go away? And that antique vase, worth hundreds of millions, is now in pieces. Don't you think you owe me an explanation? James looked at me tremblingly, hoping for help. But what good would it do to look at me? Why should I help this scoundrel? I rolled my eyes and hugged my husband. Seeing my reaction, James could only lower his head, unsure of what to do. Emma glared at him and couldn't hold back her curses. James, what are you even worth now? Aren't you the boss of a listed company? Why are you being so submissive? I'm about to marry you, and you're letting me suffer this humiliation. Call someone quickly. Stop being such a coward. I stood up and slapped Emma. Shut up. You're so noisy. Your mouth is always full of insults. Aren't you ashamed? Emma, held by the bodyguards, could only take the slap. Bitch, how dare you hit me? Who knows if he's really the richest man in the world? He might be a fraud. Olivia looks so shabby herself. How could she have a husband who's the richest man in the world? I don't believe it. Are the rest of you all stupid? How can you believe this just because of this? Don't be so naive. Come and help us. But no one moved. After all, no one was that foolish. Only she was naive enough to think this was all fake. I kicked her. Who does she think she is to insult me? Shabby? My clothes are all custom-made and have no labels. Any one of them is worth more than your entire outfit. You know nothing. You're so uneducated and still yelling here. It's disgusting. Emma continued to curse relentlessly. So what? You're still someone who depends on her husband. You sit at home all day drawing those crappy design drafts. You either use your husband's money or your parents'. You're just a gold digger relying on men to get by. My husband stood up and looked at her coldly. My wife can't use my money? All my money belongs to my wife. What's wrong with her using my money? I waved my hand and told the bodyguards to cover her mouth. Then I took out my phone with a smile. Hey, didn't you want me to make an official announcement? I'll give you that chance. In less than 10 minutes, my photo was trending. The latest exclusive designer for luxury brands, Alyssa, is actually only 28 years old. My alma mater also seized the opportunity to release news. Alyssa, as an alumna of our university, has been donating to the school for years to help students in need. The others stared wide-eyed as they saw the trending news on their phones. They couldn't believe that the person they had looked down on earlier was actually a top-tier designer. One of Emma's friends couldn't hold back her curiosity and asked, "Is that you? You're Alyssa." I smiled at her and nodded, then glanced down at Emma, who was unable to speak, her mouth covered. What else did she want to say? Too bad she can't say it now. You didn't know, did you? I continued. That pink diamond was a gift from my husband. Yours is just a cheap imitation, yet you treasure it as if it were real. Did you really think James could afford to buy you a diamond like that? Even if he wanted to. He doesn't have the means. Immediately, the crowd began showering me and my husband with compliments. Oh, I always knew Olivia was special. How could she just be an ordinary designer? Yes, Olivia was personally mentored by Nathaniel. Now she's truly accomplished. She's bringing honor to our school. She's still our class monitor. She works quietly on big things and now makes a stunning debut. Looking at their sycophantic faces, I felt nothing but disgust. I was about to leave with my husband when something occurred to me. Where did you hide the bag? I turned sharply to Emma. Emma shook her head desperately, refusing to admit anything. What? Do you want me to call the police and charge you with theft? Seeing my stern expression, Emma quickly nodded in panic. The bodyguard released her, and she collapsed to the floor. After a moment, she got up and handed over the hidden bag. Here it is. The other bags are in the cloakroom. Nothing else is missing. I looked at the bag with disgust. It had been tainted by the touch of these despicable people, and I no longer wanted it. I tossed it aside and picked up a wet wipe to clean my hands. Call the police. These people need to learn what it's like to break the law. Trespassing. Slander. I'll hire a lawyer to sue them. And remember, I won't accept any settlements. The smiles instantly vanished from their faces. They stared at me in disbelief. Olivia, don't be so harsh. We were just foolish and made a few sarcastic remarks about you. You don't have to be so ruthless, do you? Olivia, we've realized our mistakes. Can't we just let this go? Why should I let it go? I replied coldly. I'm not that magnanimous. You've been criticizing me for years. Don't you think you should pay a price for that? If any of you say another word, I'll use my connections to teach you a lesson. With that, I took my husband's arm, and we walked away. He helped me into the Rolls-Royce Phantom. This is the top-of-the-line Rolls-Royce. What a bunch of short-sighted fools. James chased after us, staring at me blankly. Olivia. I regret it. I regret it. What do I care about his regrets? I muttered. After that, James was exposed by my husband. From a respected company boss, he became a despised criminal. His wealth was built on tax evasion. The house he lived in was originally handed over to his company for decoration by my husband. But James, taking advantage of our frequent trips abroad, secretly moved Emma in. In the end, we sold the house because it had become too tainted. James was sentenced to over 10 years in prison. Afraid of serving time, he went into hiding. I thought he'd stay hidden forever, But one day while I was out, I saw him. His face was dirty, and it looked like he hadn't bathed in days. "Olivia," he whispered. "Emma and I broke up. Come with me. Let's go abroad. No one will disturb us there. Don't you remember our old life? I'm your real husband." Seeing him try to step closer, I pushed him away sharply. "Get lost. Who do you think you are to come back to me?" I ordered the bodyguard to take him to the police station. Looking at his pitiful state, I thought of the past. In the past, he had longed for Emma. Didn't his wish come true in this life? After sending this unwelcome guest away, I returned to my room to continue working on my designs. Who said my work was useless? He was the blind one. My creations will find those who truly appreciate them. Emma and her vile friends were sued and forced to write me handwritten apologies. Due to this incident, Emma faced harsh criticism from her classmates. They accused her of pretending to be wealthy and called her shameless. Eventually, unable to endure the backlash, Emma fled abroad. One evening, noticing my husband's exhausted demeanor, I approached and embraced him. He smiled, returning the hug and playfully acting affectionate. "Darling, I heard that man came to see you," he said. "Did he touch you? If he did, tell me, and I'll make sure his hands are dealt with." I gently rubbed his face, reassuring him. "How could he? He's despicable. You're the only one I love, and that will never change." That night, as he held me while we slept, I couldn't help but reflect. Being reborn truly felt like a blessing. I had escaped a toxic relationship and found a man who genuinely loved me. He never doubted my abilities and constantly encouraged me. Together, we grew stronger and better. My husband and I had been reborn together. In our previous life, he had spent all his money on my treatment, missing the best opportunity to start his business. When his business later failed, he blamed me entirely. Not only did he cheat with his first love, but he also killed me after I filed for divorce. In this life, faced with overwhelming medical bills, he forced me to give up and took our son away. "Let's get a divorce," he said. "I can't let you drag me down." But eventually, he regretted his decision. When I opened my eyes again, I realized I had been reborn. The doctor regretfully informed me that my illness was severe and the treatment costs would be exorbitant. My husband, Henry, who stood beside me, immediately said, "In that case, there's no need to treat it." The atmosphere in the room turned icy. Seeing his serious expression, I understood that he too had been reborn, carrying the memories of our past life. In our previous life, when the doctor mentioned the high treatment costs, Henry had tearfully urged me to continue the treatment. "What's the use of having money without you?" he had said. Back then our relationship was strong. Our eldest daughter, Emma, was in her final year of high school, and our youngest son, Lucas, was in his first year. They needed me more than ever. We had saved some startup capital, and without hesitation, Henry invested it all in my treatment. However, this decision slowed down his career. After I recovered, I threw myself into work, trying to help him recover, but we had missed the best opportunities in the industry. He faced repeated failures and took out his frustrations on me. I felt indebted to him, so I endured his outbursts until one day, after another failed business bid, he came home drunk and violently attacked me. Emma tried to stop him but was also hurt. When he sobered up, he left without a word. Later, he returned with lipstick marks on his shirt. Seeing them, I broke down in tears. I searched his pockets and found a card with the contact information of his first love, Mia, who had become a wealthy woman. It was clear what he had done. At that moment, I felt an eerie calm. After putting everything back, my hands trembled. The man who once claimed he couldn't live without me had changed. I filed for divorce, refusing to endure any more, but he looked at me with disgust. "My company is about to go public," he said. "Can't you stop causing trouble?" Deeply hurt, I moved out. However, when I returned to collect my belongings, I found him with Mia in our home. I couldn't hold back and slapped him. Mia grabbed my hair and pushed me to the ground. Henry chose to protect her, even taking a kitchen knife and slashing at me. Before I died, I thought bitterly, I agreed to the divorce. Why did he humiliate me like this? If I could do it all over again, I would never let this happen. Bringing myself back to the present, I calmly said, "I must treat my illness. Not only do I need to recover fully, but I also have to ensure my well-being. In this lifetime, I vow to make Henry pay for his actions with my own hands. Hearing my words, Henry stood up, visibly annoyed. If you want treatment, pay for it yourself, he snapped. I won't give you a single penny. Emma, frightened, quickly grabbed Henry's arm. Dad, how can you say that? Apologize to Mom right now. But Henry slapped Emma without hesitation. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to me like that? Do you think you can dictate how I spend my money? I grew anxious. Don't hit her. If you have a problem, take it out on me. The doctors and nurses intervened, separating them to prevent further violence. Henry sneered. Olivia, have you had enough of me? I'm disciplining my daughter, and you interfere. This marriage is over. I shielded Emma and looked at him calmly. I knew his real intention was in his last sentence. Let's get a divorce, I said. I don't want to be dragged down by you anymore. Emma cried, begging him to stop. Her face was filled with disbelief. Dad, how could you change like this? Don't you want Mom anymore? Henry coldly shook her off. Not just her, I don't want you either. I've had enough. You're an ungrateful brat. From now on, you can live with your mother, that burden, for the rest of your life. Furious, I grabbed a vase and threw it at him. You don't need to worry about Emma. From now on, we have nothing to do with you. Get out. Henry dodged the vase, and a hint of joy flashed in his eyes. So, you agree to the divorce? I nodded. I was done with him. There was a calculating look in his eyes. Then who gets custody of our son? I knew his plan. Our son, Lucas, was already grown and stubborn. If Henry could influence him, Lucas might side with him and reject me, his seriously ill mother. Lucas was still at school and hadn't returned yet. I'll take both our son and daughter, I declared. You won't take them from me. Henry grew agitated. You're practically on your deathbed. Do you want to drag our son down with you? Emma can go with you. I'll give you 3,000 yuan a month. That should be enough for you to survive. 3,000 yuan wasn't even enough to cover my medical expenses. I shook my head. It's not enough. I want half of the family assets, or there's no deal. Surprisingly, he agreed quickly. If you let me have custody of our son, I'll give you half. After all, in his mind, I was already as good as dead. I held Emma's hand tightly. She was crying uncontrollably. Fine, I agree. Go prepare the agreement. With half the family assets, I could manage, but Emma would have to endure more. Henry left without a second glance, a smug smile on his face. The nurses came over to comfort Emma, wiping her tears and looking at me with pity. I've never seen such a heartless family member, one said. It's not a terminal illness, yet he's rushing to divorce you. I closed my eyes, feeling a sharp pain in my abdomen. Emma, do you resent me for making you stay with me? I asked. If she didn't want to, I wouldn't force her. But Emma kissed my cheek tenderly. Mom, I'll go anywhere as long as I'm with you. I finally relaxed, tears streaming down my face. I only felt sorry for Lucas. I didn't have the strength to care for 2 children now. I could only hope Henry would treat him better. But I underestimated how heartless Henry could be. During this time, Emma stayed in the hospital, tirelessly caring for me. Watching her small figure change my urine bag, my eyes welled up with tears. Just as I was about to tell her to rest, there was a knock at the door. It was Henry's divorce agreement. After reviewing it, I signed. Henry called again, asking if I had received the document and reminding me to sign it promptly. He mentioned that we would obtain the divorce certificate next month, adding sarcastically that he hoped I would still be alive by then. I responded with equal sarcasm, thanking him for his kind words before hanging up. Reflecting on the call, I couldn't help but scold myself for ever falling for someone like him. I had received 300,000 yuan. After setting aside 50,000 yuan for my hospital treatment, I knew I had to be careful with the remaining money. Emma, in her final year of high school, was under immense pressure, and I didn't want my situation to disrupt her studies. One day, she mentioned wanting to take on a part-time job while bringing me a bowl of porridge. I could sense her concern and reassured her that money wasn't an issue, urging her to focus on her studies instead. She remained silent, but I knew she was worried. To comfort her, I made a pinky promise, vowing to do everything I could to stay alive. She smiled through her tears, linking her finger with mine. On the day Henry and I finalized our divorce, he showed up with his first love, Mia. They flaunted their relationship, holding hands and making snide remarks about finally being together and planning their wedding next month. I ignored their theatrics, collected the certificate, and left without a word. Meanwhile, Lucas, my son, had blocked me after a conversation with Henry. Emma was furious when she saw the red exclamation mark on my phone, criticizing Henry for his neglect and mistreatment of me. She wanted to confront Lucas, but I stopped her, reminding her that we needed to focus on our own lives. With only 3 months left until Emma's college entrance exam, I was determined to shield her from any distractions. However, the 50,000 yuan I had set aside for my treatment was running out, and we were facing financial strain. Fortunately, Emma's teacher visited us with good news. Emma was the top student in her grade, and the school had organized a donation drive to support us. They raised 60,000 yuan, which eased my burden significantly. I expressed my gratitude, promising to repay the kindness bit by bit. Emma had even recorded the names of every donor in a notebook, vowing to repay them one day. Her thoughtfulness filled me with pride, and I kissed her, telling her she was my greatest joy. Perhaps because I had let go of my worries, my health began to improve. Even the doctors were surprised by my rapid recovery, calling it one of the fastest they had seen in such cases. Meanwhile, Henry had started his own business. One day, Emma came home crying, and my heart sank. After some prodding, she confessed that she had gone to see Henry but found him kissing Mia. I couldn't help but sneer at Henry's haste. In the past, he had at least tried to succeed on his own before turning to Mia. Now, he was relying on her from the start, oblivious to the fact that Mia's husband wasn't foolish. When the truth came out, they would face serious consequences. After crying for a while, Emma looked at me with determination, promising to always stand by my side and not follow in her father's footsteps. I hugged her tightly, telling her she was all I had. I still had 250,000 yuan left, and I decided to set aside at least 150,000 yuan for Emma's future.
She went to college. I didn't want her to be looked down upon. Fortunately, my condition was getting better now, and I didn't need to invest more money in treatment. Seeing that I had more and more energy day by day, I started to resume my old job, painting. But this wasn't just to kill time. It was my job. In the previous life, I was a somewhat famous comic artist and often took orders on social platforms. I could get a stable income of 10,000 yuan a month. Although my painting skills weren't as exquisite as before, it was enough to make a living. Thinking about my experiences with Henry, I got new creative inspiration. I wanted to draw our story into a comic and publish it on the platform. When I discussed it with Emma, she quickly agreed. She even reminded me to pay attention to the right of reputation and not to write Henry's name directly. I nodded with a smile and started to create wholeheartedly. The comic series received a great response, and the platform gave me more and more traffic. A week later, my work quickly made it to the new arrival list. On the day I received the manuscript fee, I took Emma to KFC. She had liked it before, but since I divorced Henry, she hadn't eaten it once. At the moment, watching her eating with oil all over her mouth, my heart softened. How are things at school recently? As the college entrance examination was approaching, I didn't want anything to affect her state. Emma's hand holding the fried chicken trembled, and it accidentally dropped to the ground. When she stood up again, her eyes were red. I quickly wiped her tears and asked what was wrong. She said that Lucas had cut off relations with her and said that he wouldn't have a sister like her in the future. Mom, Dad really doesn't want us anymore. He has a new girlfriend. According to Lucas, they're going to get married. I was also stunned. I really didn't expect Henry to get remarried. Was he so sure that without the support of her backer, Mia was still a hot ticket that could bring him opportunities? And Mia was even more ridiculous. She actually came to the hospital on purpose. She pretended to come to visit me and walked into the ward with a lot of things that I couldn't eat. Long time no see. I came here specially to see you. And I have some good news to tell you. Henry and I are getting married the day after tomorrow. Emma stared at her fiercely. What are you doing here? We don't welcome you. But she didn't seem to have the intention to leave. I'm just here to warn you. From now on, don't have any ideas about Henry. Even if you can cure your illness, you'll just be a stranger to him. I laughed. Who told you I have ideas about him? In a sense, the two of them were really well matched. She was left speechless by me and looked a bit embarrassed. Henry has achieved success in his business now. Don't I know how many women out there want to get close to him? Then go find those women who are interested in him. I've never contacted him, nor have I looked for him even once. What are you doing here, provoking me like this? After saying that, I didn't even bother to look at her and simply closed my eyes. Feeling bored, she said a few more sarcastic words and then left. Emma slammed the door shut forcefully and sat by the bed, fuming. This vulgar woman can't even compare to Mom. I don't know what they're thinking. I was amused by her little expression. I stroked her small face and comforted her. All right, don't get angry with such unworthy people and hurt yourself. I thought things would come to an end, but I didn't expect Lucas to be so naive. Perhaps the things between Mia and Henry had stimulated him. Now, at school, he took the lead in spreading rumors and bullying Emma. Emma, for my sake, didn't want to pay attention to them, but this only made them go even further. Lucas even bullied her so much that she didn't even dare to go to school. One day, Emma's head teacher called me, saying that Emma was missing. My heart jumped to my throat. I asked nervously, "What? Isn't she at school?" "We don't know either. She didn't come to class today. We can't get in touch with her and we can't find her." There was a hint of anxiety in the head teacher's voice. After all, Emma was her best student. If something happened to her before the college entrance examination, the consequences would be unimaginable. "I'll come right away." After hanging up the phone, I immediately dialed Henry's number. My intuition told me that this matter must be related to him. But after I told him about Emma's situation, an impatient voice came from the other end of the phone. "She's missing? That's none of my business. She's your daughter. How can you be like this?" I couldn't help raising my voice, and tears began to well up in my eyes. "I'm busy. I don't have time for this." After saying that, Henry hung up the phone directly. His indifferent look was just like in the previous life. I was so angry that I was shaking all over, but there was nothing I could do. I had no choice but to call the police and then force myself to get up from the hospital bed and go to the school. After learning about the situation, the police immediately launched a search. "Emma, where are you? Mom is so worried about you." I kept looking for Emma, murmuring in my heart. As time passed, every minute seemed like a year. Finally, the police brought good news. They had found Emma. "She's in an internet cafe. We've sent someone to pick her up." I heaved a sigh of relief, and the stone in my heart finally dropped. I immediately rushed to the internet cafe. Along the way, I kept praying that Emma was safe. When I arrived at the internet cafe, I saw Emma sitting in the corner, with a blank look in her eyes and a piece of paper in her hand. I rushed over and hugged her tightly. "Emma, you scared Mom to death." Emma looked up, her eyes full of tears. "Mom, I'm sorry, I interrupted her and hugged her tightly. It's okay, it's okay. Let's go back." On the way back, I asked Emma what had happened. She told me that because Lucas took the lead in spreading rumors and bullying her at school, and even kept asking her for money, she felt very sad, so she hid in the internet cafe. Facing her own younger brother, she couldn't really bring herself to fight back, plus, she was exhausted from taking care of me every day. My heart was filled with anger. Lucas was so naive to do such a thing. But I had raised both children and I knew their personalities. So I decided to have a good talk with Henry. After returning to the hospital, I called Henry again. "Henry, what exactly did you say to Lucas? He keeps bullying Emma. As a father, how do you discipline your children?" I tried my best to hold back my emotions so as not to start cursing. "So what? I'm busy. I don't have time for this. Emma is also your daughter. If you can't care for and protect her, at least don't hurt her." I tried to control myself and said calmly, "Lucas is grown up and can't be controlled. If you think I'm not doing a good job, then you go and take care of it yourself." But Henry still didn't care. Even after saying that, he hung up the phone again. This time he even blocked me directly. I was so angry that I was shaking all over. Then I turned around and took Emma to the school. No matter what, I had to make things clear to Lucas today. After the teacher brought Lucas to the office, he still looked casual. When he saw me, he even rolled his eyes. The child who used to love sticking to me and sharing his life with me now looked at me like an enemy. My heart felt cold. This was the son I had raised with my own hands. Just a few days had passed, and he was treating me like this. I went straight up and slapped him. Lucas, apologize to your sister. After being slapped, Lucas covered his face and looked at me. Why should I apologize? You're not my mom anymore. Why do you care about me? Hearing this, I looked straight into his eyes. Lucas, I'll always be your mom, no matter what our legal relationship is. I took a deep breath and continued, moreover, it was your dad who abandoned us first. He chose Mia and his career. A flicker of hesitation flashed in Lucas's eyes, but soon he became cold again. Impossible. Dad said it was you who didn't want us first. So this was how Henry slandered me. In his words, I became the one who left voluntarily. I thought to myself that only by packaging himself as a victim could he hold on to others' concern more firmly. He's just trying to save face for himself, I replied calmly. But you can't hurt Emma just because of his choice. She's your sister. You should support and protect each other. Lucas fell silent. He seemed to be thinking about what I said. I struck while the iron was hot. Lucas, Mom knows you're a good boy. If you don't believe me, you can go to the hospital at any time to see if I'm lying. Lucas seemed to want to say something but stopped. There were tears in his eyes. Finally, he lowered his head. Sorry, Mom. My heart warmed. He called me Mom again. I knew that our relationship had changed. I'll apologize to my sister. Lucas's voice dropped. I won't treat her like that anymore. Then he turned around and ran out of the office. I looked at his back, my heart filled with mixed emotions. Lucas was also my child. How could I not feel sorry for him? It was all that fool Henry's fault, making the three of us end up like this. After taking a deep breath, I turned around and hugged Emma. I think he won't bully you anymore. If there's anything else, tell your head teacher in time and ask him to call Mom. Emma nodded vigorously. I will, Mom. You should go back to the hospital and rest. Only then did I feel relieved and drove back to the hospital. To my surprise, I found that I could stay out of bed for longer and longer. Fortunately, the conversation that day worked. Until the college entrance examination, there was no more bad news for Emma. Instead, Lucas would stand up for her and punish those who wanted to bully Emma. After the exam, I specially bought her a bouquet of flowers to pick her up. She walked towards me with a relaxed look. Mom, I finally graduated. I can take good care of you now. You must also keep your promise and stay with me well. I smiled and handed her the flowers. Mom doesn't need you to take care of me because Mom is about to be discharged from the hospital. She was overjoyed immediately. Really? I nodded with a smile. This was good news for me too. The doctor said that my body was recovering very fast. I could be discharged from the hospital in 3 more days. As long as I kept taking the medicine later, I could be completely cured. It was much faster than the recovery speed in my previous life. Come on, Mom will take you to have a big meal. Just as I was thinking about taking her to celebrate, she hesitated. Mom, do you still have money? I couldn't help laughing and crying. I pinched her little face. Mom's comics now have a monthly income of over 10,000 yuan. Mom can afford to treat you to a meal. I had to thank Henry for this. He provided me with a continuous stream of inspiration for my creation. Not only that, but I still had some money left. I was waiting for Emma to go to college so that she could live a comfortable life. Hearing this, she nodded happily. Mom, you're amazing. 3 days later, after I was discharged from the hospital, I found a new house and moved in. The new house wasn't big, but it was clean, tidy, and full of sunlight. Emma liked it very much. Mom, you're so amazing. You can find such a nice house. Emma ran to me and gave me a big hug. Yes, Mom will try to make our lives better. I hugged her tightly back, my heart full of hope. In this life, I must give them a good life. 20 days later, the college entrance examination results came out. Emma ranked first in the province. This news was like a bolt from the blue, shocking the whole community. Before I even got up, there was a lot of noise outside with gongs and drums. Mom, I made it, Emma jumped up excitedly, pointing at the score-checking page on the computer screen. I ranked first in the province. I also hugged her excitedly, with tears welling up in my eyes. You're the best. Mom, look, the teachers from the admissions offices of Harvard and Stanford are here. Emma pointed out of the window. There stood the teachers from the admissions offices of the two top universities downstairs, obviously coming to visit us. Emma, you go and get ready first. Mom will go and greet them. I wiped my tears, composed myself, and prepared to welcome these honored guests. When I went downstairs, the two teachers immediately came up to me. Hello, Ms. Olivia. We are the teachers from the admissions offices of Harvard University and Stanford University. Hello, welcome. I replied with a smile. Please come in, please come in. We're here to congratulate you and Emma. The teacher from Harvard University said, Emma's grades are excellent, and we really hope she can choose our school. So do we. The teacher from Stanford University said immediately, we're willing to offer Emma a full scholarship. Listening to the introduction of the two teachers, I was filled with pride and relief. Emma's efforts hadn't been in vain. She had proved herself with her strength. Now it was the time for my precious daughter to show her mettle. I'll discuss it with Emma and then give you a reply. I replied politely. Thank you for your appreciation. The teachers nodded. After trying to persuade us for a while, they left their contact information and then left. Mom, which one should I choose? Emma looked a bit confused. Baby, this is your life. Mom supports you in making any decision. I said gently. No matter which school you choose, Mom will be proud of you. Emma thought for a while and then said firmly, I want to go to Harvard University. They have my favorite subject there. Then go to Harvard. I replied with a smile. Mom will always support you. I looked at Emma, my heart filled with joy. As the top-scoring student in the province, the elite middle school invited all the students and parents of the school to watch Emma's speech. I didn't expect that Henry would come too. But this time, he didn't stand next to Lucas. Instead, when Emma was thanking me for my efforts later, he shouted from the audience, Emma, I'm your dad. Suddenly, he attracted a lot of people's attention. They started talking among themselves. This is the father of the top-scoring student. Hurry up and get his contact information to learn from him. Only then did I realize that Henry wanted to use his daughter as a stepping stone. He's not my dad. Emma saw this scene and said it directly on the stage. You abandoned us when Mom was seriously ill. What are you doing here now? Aren't you already married to your new wife? Why do you still come to disturb me and Mom? Emma said unceremoniously. Henry's face turned ugly immediately. His face flushed red with anger, and he pointed at Emma and cursed, You little slut, how can you talk to your father like that? Do you want to die? This time, before Emma could speak, the principal sent security guards to throw him out. Where did this crazy person come from? Send him away quickly. If you stay here any longer, we'll call the police. Afterwards, I found out that Henry had done this regardless of his face because his company was gradually getting into trouble. He had been trying to find new investors but had failed. Until the news of Emma becoming the top-scoring student in the province spread, he saw new hope. He thought that with Emma's achievement, he could easily attract the attention of investors and might even bring his company back to life through this opportunity. However, Emma publicly rejected him in her speech, making him lose face in front of everyone. Even more ridiculously, this incident was filmed and spread online, and Henry became a hit on the internet. In the video, the scene of him being dragged out of the school by security guards was watched by countless netizens and became an online hot topic. Many netizens started to dig deeper and finally found out that the comics I drew were exactly about our story. This man is really a modern-day Chen Shimi. A netizen wrote in the comment section, abandoning his wife and children, and now trying to come back to ride the coattails of popularity. He's extremely shameless. Yeah, how does such a person deserve to be a father? Another netizen echoed, his company surely can't be any good either. As the discussion deepened, netizens began to investigate Henry's company. They discovered that Henry's company indeed had serious financial problems and was also in a state of chaotic management with extremely poor credibility. All of a sudden, the reputation of Henry's company plummeted, and the already precarious corporate image completely collapsed. I always thought there was something wrong with this company. Now it seems I was right. An investor anonymously revealed on the forum, fortunately, I divested in time, or I would have suffered heavy losses. Whoever invests in this kind of company is unlucky. Another investor also replied in the thread under the impact of public opinion, Henry's company ultimately couldn't survive this crisis. The already fragile capital chain completely broke, and the last few investors also pulled out their funds and ran away. Henry's company went bankrupt just like that. Then, with no way out, Henry came to beg me to remarry. I sneered and said, "What about Mia? Don't you want her anymore?" Henry quickly said, "She's just a bitch. She seduced me in the first place. As long as you agree to get back together with me, I'll divorce her immediately." He didn't notice that Mia, with red eyes, rushed towards him from behind. The two started fighting and cursing each other. "You liar! You were the one who chased me first." Mia's voice was full of anger and unwillingness, until he failed in another bid and drank a lot of alcohol. To me, seems incorrect here, but kept as it is in the translation due to lack of clear correction. I stood by, coldly watching this farce. "Stop arguing, both of you," I said calmly, "solve your marriage problems on your own." Henry and Mia were both stunned, seemingly not expecting me to be so calm. Subsequently, they glanced at each other and then started arguing again. "You heartless man! I've sacrificed so much for you," Mia cried. "What have you sacrificed? You're just a woman who covets my money." I shook my head and turned to leave. Sure enough, no matter who Henry chose, the final result would be the same. He didn't love anyone, only caring about his own pleasure-seeking. And I didn't want to get involved in their argument anymore, nor be affected by their affairs. Unexpectedly, Mia was pushed to the limit and directly took out a knife from her pocket. She stabbed Henry fiercely, and the latter lost his breath on the spot. Subsequently, Mia sat on the ground crying and kept stabbing herself with the knife. "I abandoned so many people for you. Now that you're a failure, you still blame me. If that's the case, let's die together." I reacted and called the police immediately, but it was too late. When the ambulance arrived, both of them were too severely injured to be saved. After attending Henry's funeral, I picked up Lucas. Incidentally, I also inherited the other half of his assets. Emma and Lucas cleared up their misunderstandings and reconciled. The two continued to grow up under my care. Lucas would often be scolded as stupid by Emma, who would tug at his ear because he couldn't finish his homework. I was drawing at home, watching my son and daughter laughing and playing, enjoying a happy and harmonious atmosphere. From then on, there would only be good days ahead for me.